Welcome back to Starkiller Base. Today, Austin and I continue our card analysis of the Empire at War cards with the yellow villain cards. How are you doing today, Austin?
Good, good. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yeah, all right. So let's get underway here. And we have our first card here is Bazine Natal, the Master Manipulator. She's a 7/10 with 8 hit points. Her die sides show a 1 disrupt, a 1 discard, 2 shield for 1, 1 resource, a special, and a blank. And the special reads deal 1 damage to a character, or 3 damage instead if that character has no damage on it. What do you think of her, Austin?
Well, we reviewed her once before, and I think she was one of the ones to come out near to the release. And people have been using her to, pretty decent effect, I guess. She's not like, Kylo FN or something like that as far as a competitive list, but you can get 5 dice out of some of her lineups. But I still think that, something like personal shields, Unkar, there's a lot of good options for control with her, especially the what were you talking about before we started? Oh, we were doing Deadly.
Oh, Deadly, yes.
Yeah, Deadly's a good option with her too. Good health count, real reasonably costed, and the shields are good for control. So, I haven't used her yet, but I see that a lot of people have, and I think that's great because I wouldn't say I didn't see the potential for the card, but I definitely didn't see a solid recipe. So I think it's cool that people have been using her, yeah.
Well, I built a deck with Elite Balatique, Elite Bazine, and a Guavian Enforcer.
There's your 5, yeah.
I call it Fighting Dirty, and it's on StarWarsDestinyDB.com.
Cool.
And of course, the funny thing, of course, is that her dice are all right. Like the special is cool if you hit somebody fresh with it. I unfortunately was running the Guardian battlefield in it just to try it out when I first played it, and then my opponent Guardian damage onto everybody, and then her specials did 1. But it's funny because in this particular deck, her dice are basically not meant to be resolved really. Because you use Deadly to make them do damage instead, or you use Fight Dirty to remove them to do damage instead. So obviously, the game is definitely leaning towards aggro, but she definitely adds some hit points and some extra dice. So she's not too bad. I mean, I haven't explored a mill option with her, but obviously she's got the sides that support it, except for that weird special, which in a mill deck is not particularly useful. Unless you're trying to take away your opponent's shield so they can't riposte you or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool. I really think with the discard side and I wish there was it'd be cool if there was a 1 range damage on there somewhere just so you could do like loose ends or something. That'd be really cool. But I'm sure that there's a decent mill option out there.
Perhaps. All right, let's move on to Bosk, the Wookiee Slayer. He's an 11/15 with 11 hit points. His die sides show a 1 ranged, a +2 ranged, a 3 melee for 1, a 1 disrupt, a resource, and a blank. And he says, after you activate this character, you may move 1 damage from an opponent's characters to another character, and this ignores shields. So it's sort of like, what's that card that you can use it to move 2 damage? I can't remember.
I believe it's Relentless Pursuit. It has Boba Fett on it.
That sounds right. Everything's got Boba Fett on it if it's yellow.
Oh my gosh! And now we finally get him. But anyway, more on that later.
Yeah. Yes, and he's kind of disappointing.
I know, I know, but
so. I haven't actually seen anybody play Bosk. I could see how if you ran him in a deck that did area effect damage, like with his Relby gun that we're seeing coming up soon, or thermals or something like that, salvo, where you can spread out damage and then move it all, through a few turns, move it all to one character and pile it on them to kill them. It could be kind of cool. I'm not a big fan of the whole modified side and pay side that don't even match. If you've got a modified side and you've only got a 1 in 6 chance of connecting with that modified side on the same die for a character that's taking up half your list, I'm not sure about that one, but I guess time will tell.
Yeah, and I think what's cool is Elite Jabba pairs with him at 14, so you have the option to re-roll dice, and you can use focuses with them and everything. Plus it's really classic, just pairing of Bounty Hunter and Jabba the Hutt. I think that's really cool. But I do agree that it can be difficult to make those sides useful. I know that we're going to look at another weapon in the neutrals. It's the Vibro Axe. So, but you also have Vibro Knuckler. So he's not totally without connection options for the ranged or melee side. But sure. I do like the variants because sometimes decks are like, okay, cool, I'm running all deflects. And, just they tech against one thing. And because it's difficult to tech against everything. You can't you can't run everything. So I think that having some variance is interesting, especially because if for some crazy reason, which I've seen here and there, oddly enough, I guess, hunker down, come back more,
True.
then if you do roll the 3, then you're probably going to cut through something pretty good and connect and just get rid of it. So I don't know. I like I'm always a big fan of split up damage, and I think it's cool that you can make him elite with Jabba, elite with another
That's fair, yeah.
15 maybe. So yeah, I don't definitely don't think that it's unusable, but certainly the lack of consistency makes it much harder to use. So
Yes, I agree.
yeah.
And the other thing too is that in that same vein of deflects and stuff like that, he is susceptible to potentially any kind of die control, right? Like he rolls in a range side, he gets deflected. He rolls into melee side, he gets clashed. He doesn't block and dodge will hit some of his die sides. So you're not giving your opponent any dead cards in that sense, which is less good, but who knows. Let's move on to the next one here. It's Cad Bane, the Vicious Mercenary. He's a 13-17, which is the magic numbers nowadays with all the 13-point elites that are coming out. He's got 12 hit points. His die sides show a 2 ranged, a 3 ranged for 1, a 2 discard for 1, a shield, a resource, and a blank. His special says, action, play an upgrade from your hand on this character, paying its cost. Then you may activate him. So this allows you, if you take his action, it allows you to put an upgrade on him, and if you put an ambush upgrade on him, you can roll him in, and then you can resolve the dice without your opponent having a chance to mitigate them. Unfortunately, his die sides have a lot of, only 2 sides show damage, and one of them is a pay side, so he's not as consistent as someone like Sabine might be. But when you roll in, and you roll in well, it can be pretty nasty. I've had games where I had the what's it called? Sorry, the LL30 blaster pistol and fast hands on him. And it allows me to fast hands the L30 special to turn one of his die size to ranged and then hit someone for like 5 or something like that. And if you pair him with somebody that's red, like two-player Phasma, which is pretty common, and you get Imperial HQ in there, then when you roll in CAD with that ambush action, you can resolve the pay sides without having to pay for them. So once that gets out, it's pretty nasty.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I will say this. I'm not a fan. I definitely know that he is usable, but at that point, I would rather run single dice 2-player Phasma and Aura because the 2s become like a 3 is going to deflect for 2, but a 2 is just going to deflect for 1 as far as like comparison dice. Plus, I don't want to pay for all of Cad's stuff. I think it would be really cool if you didn't have to pay 1 for the 2 discard, but that's his point cost factored into it. Like you were saying earlier, I would just rather run Sabine and smuggle a thermal paint or detonator or something, especially because to have to pay for it is with the possibility of no Imperial HQ. It's just, I feel like the card is, they just made it difficult. It's not even clunky. They just made it difficult to run, in my opinion, because you have to pay for so many of the sides. And 2's not bad, but you'd rather see a 3. But you don't want to see a 3 that you have to pay for every time. I mean, especially if you're trying to get upgrades out.
That's the tricky part is if you pay your 2 for the turn for a hold up blast, you roll them in, and you roll 2 pay sides, and you're like, But that's why cards like Truce have been released, where you can both players gain a resource. You have an ambush action. You play out your hold up blast. You roll in, and then you've got a money to pay for the damage sides. I mean, if you can get Imperial HQ out early, I had my opponent playing the Cad Phasma against my Thrawn card deck, and I had him choked. But he had 2 Imperial HQs out, and I'm like, I can't stop him from paying for damage sides. It's ridiculous.
That's true.
It's a good card.
Yeah, it's in that. But see, that's what I mean. Like, it's unfortunate that Imperial HQ, a red support, is what makes Cad more playable. That's like just on his own. Yes, he's not very approachable. Just because of like, oh great, well yeah, I'll play my Night Sniper, and now I just rolled all three pay sides. So I don't think he's bad, but he's just not my style. Like, I'd rather pay 3 more points, go up to 20, and run Sabine instead, and get almost the same action. Plus, I like Sabine better because you can just dump your whole hand of weapons in the graveyard. It's like you have 10 cards in your hand, So I really like her.
The 13-17 actually allows him to run with Elite Phasma or Elite, I guess, Kylo or somebody like that, Elite FN, whereas at 20 you're probably running a single die unless you run I guess, Bazine or Ezra, depending on which faction you're in. So
Mm-hmm.
it is kind of limiting.
It's true.
So, I mean, I'd rather have, when Cad dies, I'd rather have a decked out Phasma than a Ezra with a holdout blaster.
Hey, man.
Sorry, Ezra. Nothing personal, buddy.
Yeah.
Maybe when you pick up a lightsaber, you'll be a bit better. But
That's true,
until
yeah.
then, I
Yeah,
don't know.
he's really, really good, especially again because you begin there's no way that someone's not playing this with 2-player Phasma. So I mean, 4 dice starting, I mean a potential of what, 8 damage for no money. I mean 10
22 hit
with
points, not bad.
yeah, it's not that he's bad. He's just not my style. But man, if
That's
you
fair.
can connect the damage and get Imperial HQ out first or second turn, yeah, you're gonna have a real quick game.
Yeah, I was playing, what was it, Elite 2-player Poe with Rookie Pilot and Rebel Trooper, and playing an It's a Trap deck. It was a lot of fun. And then Poe is sitting there with 3 damage on him. He's got 8 hit points left, and Cad has a Night Sniper on him. And doesn't he roll in exactly the 8 he needs? The only possible die combination that would give him the kill instantly. And I was just like, because that's the thing that bothers me is, like it started with Luke Ray, and it's gone on to now Cad Phasma and Sabine decks, where it's just, if they roll in and they roll like 11 damage, game's over. They win. They kill your meaty guy, and then that's it. And there's no offense to anybody, but there's no skill required to do that. You just need to roll and get lucky. And if you get unlucky, then it's a game and things proceed. But it's just, it's just more this, I have like 8 die control cards in my deck, and I can't use them because you can mitigate, or you can fire them off before I can do anything about it. It's just, it's cool that there are decks like that, and I don't mind them because, for people that are newer to the game that want to learn how it works and want to have a better, a decent chance at winning against a more skilled player, they're useful. But if they become tier 1 and start winning things, then it's kind of frustrating. Although
you mean
I guess
like
that's essentially what
FN?
FN is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what FN's been doing for months now. So I guess I'll shut up about that now. Let's move on to the next guy here. It's the Gamorrean Guard. This is the non-unique yellow villain. 10 hit points. 10 points. 11 hit points. Die sides show a 1 melee, a 3 melee for 1, a +2 melee, a disrupt, a blank, and the character has Guardian. So 11 hit points with Guardian is pretty beefy. I saw Jay from Double Blanks Gaming play his 3 Little Piggies deck, he called it, with 3 Gamorrean Guards, which was really interesting. There's a lot of blanks in there, which unfortunately yellow can't take advantage of without splashing in blue.
Right.
But, I mean, 3 damage sides is more than most, and Guardian with 11 hit points is ridiculously good. And I mean, if you can put in an Electro Staff, I think I saw a deck that was, I think it was Elite Grievous with a Gamorrean Guard.
Okay.
Which was all right. And you can put Electro Staffs in on the Gamorrean Guard or Grievous, and you can put the Praetorian Guard on the Gamorrean Guard. I guess it already has Guardian, but it's not a bad die.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe that's not the best example, but
well, plus you can just ramp to a Z6 or something like that. I mean,
Sure.
it's not pointless, but I do notice that Praetorian Guard is just getting phased out more just because it can tend to be slower. But I like the concept of the double Gamorrean Guard. Plus, especially we're going to come to like their event basically later. But
yes,
a friend of mine did this with Gamorrean Guard, and Unkar. And then just did a Crime Lord variant and just kept Unkar alive. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So yeah, I really like this.
Die sides are really good too.
Yeah.
I mean, for Unkar, his dice. Well, I shouldn't say the 2 blanks not so good, but the other sides are pretty decent for
totally.
Unkar.
So yeah, I mean, I thought that was really cool. I like that Gamorrean Guard's actually useful, especially because it's more. I think it's great because of the Guardian. Like I think it's playable
Absolutely
because of that. So I look forward to seeing what else people come up with it.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it looks like the Gamorrean Guard is at a disco party in the picture, but other than that, good card. All right, let's move on to Hound's Tooth. It is a unique 2-cost support vehicle. I guess it's Bosk's ship. The die sides show a 1 disrupt, a 1 shield, a 3 shield for 1, a 2 resource for 1, a 4 resource for 2, and a blank. And the ability reads, after you activate this support, you may remove 1 of your yellow character dice to gain 1 resource. So instantly you say, well, I should probably roll a yellow character in first before activating Houndstooth, just in case, especially if you hit a blank or something like that. I run this in Thronkar. I don't run it in anything else currently, but I guess I might put a copy of it in my Sienna Phasma Unkar Vehicles deck just to get some money out there. and the fact that it's a vehicle.
Sure.
Its die sides are pretty great for Unkar.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they're already showing resources for the most part, and shields are always good. But I mean, it's really nice when you roll an Unkar, let's say, and you hit like a +2 resource and a blank. Then you roll in the houndstooth, and that's action. You remove the blank to get a resource because it was blank anyway, and then you can pay for 2 of the 6 sides, so it's not too bad.
It's true. Yeah, I like it. It's funny though. I did not see one of these pulled in, I don't know, 20 boxes at my local, like at even several different stores around my local. It was crazy. I didn't see one of them. It was just, I saw more Throns and Ancient Lightsabers than Houndstooth. It was just really, really weird. But yeah, I think it's really cool.
What you're saying is that everybody's really happy with their legendary pulls.
Yeah, no kidding. That's like unbelievably good over here, I guess. But I think, I think Unkar is the obvious, especially for the 4 side and the 3. You know, if you can't even pay for them, then it's like, well, I'll just pay for it next time because I'm just going to eat cards out of your hand. So it's really good, especially at a cost 2.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very solid. But I would see it. Boy, I don't know how you would do this with Bosk, just, thematically. But
well, that's what I don't get is it has no synergy with actually Bosk. Like, he gets in the ship and it's like, yeah, okay, that's cool. You compare a first order TIE fighter and a TIE pilot to Bosk and the Houndstooth, and you're just like, what?
You're like, this is very strange. But yeah, I'm positive that this is like pretty much only good with Unkar, which is fine. But I mean, I guess you could like make it work with Cad Bane too, kind of. If you had 2 resources, then you just get 4.
I guess.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
But
yeah, but then you have to pay for the
sides. I'm not sold on an aggro deck because you'll pull that up, you'll slow your deck down. You roll insides that don't have damage.
Listen, man, I'm just trying to figure it out, all right? I don't want to say it's useless.
It's not useless. It's
I know.
It's
just only good in Unkar. I know. But yeah, I think it's cool. I'm glad it costs 2 because then that makes it super playable.
All right, let's move on to a card that I was really excited about and still haven't played yet. It is a 2-cost upgrade equipment called Cable Launcher. Its die sides show a 1 disrupt, a 1 discard, a resource, a special, and a blank. It is yellow character only, like all good cards, which is unfortunate. The special reads: choose a character, remove 1 of its character dice, and spend 1 resource to remove 2 of its character dice. So obviously, Vader and Palpatine do not like this card at all, because holy smokes! I mean, anybody that costs a decent amount would cry when this happens to them.
Luke, Mace, yeah.
I would love to put this in Thronkar because it has the die sides you need, and that special is ridiculous. But the problem is, Unkar is the target first, and the last thing you need is a yellow character only upgrade. You're already trying to figure out what to do with Crime Lord and stuff like that. You don't need another
cunning one. Yeah, totally.
Excuse me. If it wasn't yellow character only, this card would be amazing. At yellow character only, I'm not sure. I mean, die control is nice in a lot of decks. I mean, it's sort of like a more expensive On the Hunt, I guess, in that sense. But the problem is, like, what deck do you play it in? You want it in a control deck. I guess. I mean, one of the best places I can think of is actually Django, because your opponent can roll in first, and then you can react with Django. If you hit the special, bam, their character dice are gone, which is pretty great.
That's true. It's a good call.
And I guess if you're playing a Django Jabba control-y melee deck, I don't know.
Yeah, I think even that could work in like Vader Jabba, possibly something like that, or like Dooku Jabba. I mean, shields are becoming more relevant, which I think is fantastic. So, I mean, that's a possibility. But like, I agree. The yellow character only is, it's like where all the good cards go. But it's funny.
Yeah, and that's the thing is in that deck that you're saying there. It's again, you kill Jabba first, right? So
yeah, of course.
You want to put another yellow character only. Sorry about that. Carry on.
No. And it's kind of deceiving because to get the maximum benefit out of the special, you have to pay 1. So really, the upgrade costs you 3. Technically,
the special can remove 1 of its character dice for free.
Right.
And if you spend 1 resource, you can remove 2 of them.
But I mean, max value is to get.
Sure.
So like it does cost planning. I mean, for resources, because you're like, oh man, I need to remove both Vader 3s, but I spent 1 on something else or whatever. So I mean, it's a good control card, but it does require planning too. I mean, it can make its own money, which is neat, but then you're not getting rid of their dice. So I think it's pretty good and or above average. But yeah, it just would have to fit in a really specific list, especially where there's like a beefier yellow character. I mean, like you were saying, it doesn't belong in, like, these are control sides with the disrupt and the discard. So I don't know. I mean, maybe that could fit with Bosk or Bazine perhaps, but
Probably not.
yeah, I mean it'll be good somewhere, but unfortunately the meta is really aggro heavy right now, so I don't know if we're gonna see a whole lot of that. But I think you're right that Django's probably the best option, just because you get the response time for boom, roll in a special, and just remove the dice and just basically save your money for that, and just try and do bait and switch and stuff like that.
If you roll that in, if you have that in a deck with Detention Center and Prized Possession, you can just be like, no character dice for you. So hopefully your upgrades are good, because otherwise you're done.
That's pretty good. I like that.
All right, let's move on to the LL30 Blaster Pistol. It is a 2-cost upgrade weapon. It has, its die sides show a 1 ranged, a +2 ranged, a shield, a special, and a blank. It has ambush and redeploy. Whew.
Oof.
And its its special says turn another one of your dice to a side showing range damage. This one is it's pretty sweet. It's another 2-cost redeploy weapon. The ambush is relevant nowadays, I guess, but I mean the number of redeploy weapons that villains are getting that cost 2 are really astounding for decks
really
like
high.
Triple First Order Trooper with a Guavian kind of thing, or you put out eight resources worth of upgrades and they're in for the rest of the game practically. The special is kind of interesting. I mean, obviously, like there's no pay sides on this thing, which is pretty great, and obviously you're going to be running in a deck that has range damage. I put this in my Uncarved Vehicles deck because I figured it doesn't matter who they kill, it'll be out there, and if I hit the special, I can turn my ATST or something like that to a range side and just be giddy.
Smart.
If you got the TIE Pilot out there, also a good thing, because then your opponent can't mitigate the dice.
Yeah,
So
I think it's
a pretty handy little card.
Yeah, totally. I think the best value is like what you were just talking about, the fact that it's going to be out the entire game, and it's a cost of 2. You have ambush and redeploy, 3 consistent sides, and basically a focus. If it had a resource, it would absolutely be the nuts, because then you could just bait and switch and do whatever you want. But then it would just be too good. So yeah, I think it's outstanding. Obviously, I mean this should go in every single aggro deck, and then pay 1 for new Phasma's Blaster. I mean, it's just game over. So I mean, this lets you ramp really well, and it's effective while it does it. And in my opinion, it would be better than Holdout. Just in general.
Well, it doesn't have any pay sides, so if you're putting this out on Cad Bane and rolling him in, then you're less likely to hit another pay side and curse your luck. So
it's true. Well,
definitely.
plus the special lets you avoid Cad's pay side, which is really cool. And then you can just swap to a 2. Maybe, I mean, at least you get something out of it versus nothing, which
it brings
is
consistency
great.
Too, right?
Right. I guess that's a better way to say that.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the 3-cost upgrade weapon in the yellow villains here. It is the Relby V10 Mortar Gun. Its die sides show a 2 ranged, a 2 ranged, a +3 ranged, a 2 disrupt, a resource, and a blank. And the action says spend 2 resources and remove this die showing range damage to deal that damage to each of an opponent's characters. So one thing is it does not require you to resolve the die with the action, which means that if you have the +3, you can use the action to do basically a thermal detonator to everybody.
So good.
And as you were actually just talking about bait and switch is pretty great with that, because you can go, I have the resource side, let me bait and switch, make it to the 3. With my ambush action, I'll use the Relby's action to do 3 damage to everybody.
It's
which is
super
pretty handy.
good. Yeah, I like this gun a lot. While I think it's costed correctly and good and everything, great, whatever. I mean, it's tough to justify paying 3 for me in like decks that I have. But man, it's a really, really good gun, especially with 2 base sides. I mean, the only quote unquote bad side is the disrupt, but it's still good. Like if you're running against something where they're not building a lot of resources, it's more aggro driven. Yeah, I mean, if you can go first, it's really not terrible to ruin both resources that they have and be like, okay, no more Night Sniper, no control cards, no nothing. So I mean,
this is a Funkar weapon as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I realize that the Funkar may be dead, but I don't think so.
I don't think so.
But yeah, it would work really well in Django as well, because you could roll in and then use your action to to use the action on the Relby.
Totally.
It would be really interesting to run it in a fun card deck with Port District, which is each card you play that costs 3 or more has the ambush keyword.
Yeah, definitely.
So you just roll it in with, you just put it out with FN, roll it in, ambush, I'll use the action and spend 2, which you get from good old Unkar because he's the man, and then you wreck some faces.
That's
that
true.
Fun.
Yeah, I think this, I have nothing but good things to say about this gun. I really like the design of it too, especially because it doesn't say resolve and it doesn't leave you with a modifier that you can't deal with. So it does give deflect incentive, because I know we were talking about that in the last video of like,
sure.
Well, why would you want to remove a modifier? Like, I mean, I would not run that to do it. I would rather run deflect, but this does give you a reason to remove the modifier. You do what? 2 damage to one character versus him doing 6 to...
Yeah, it's a big swing. That's
6 or 9, depending on the list. Like, yeah, it's a
like
real
deflecting a Palpatine die there.
Totally. Yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about the card. I think it's great. I'm going to, at some point, figure out how to use it outside of Fun Car.
For sure. All right, let's move on to the non-die cards. We start off with Anarchy. It is a 3-cost event. Remove one of your yellow dice, then deal damage to each of an opponent's characters equal to the value showing on that die. Ironically, it has Bazine on the picture, who has more or less the worst yellow dice you could possibly want to use with Anarchy, because she has 2 zeros and a bunch of 1s and 1 2. So I have yet to build a deck that takes advantage of this, but it is yellow dice, not yellow character dice. Instantly, I think that the best choice for this would be Blackmail, because it has the most overvalued die sides, simply because of that negative ability it has. But are you going to run Blackmail in a damage deck? Probably not. I think well, I guess, yeah, if you put this in, like I've seen some Thrawn card decks that have big supports that have
That's right.
what's that card called? Sorry, the 2 cost that makes it hit everybody.
Salvo.
Yes, Salvo. Thank you. I'm drawing a blank. If you roll in the 4 resources for 2 on the Houndstooth and then pay 3 for Anarchying that, holy smokes, man, that could ruin somebody's day.
Totally. I think this is better than Thermal Detonator because, I mean, you have to roll. You have to have the event, and it costs the same. And with Thermal Detonator, you have to roll it in. So I think this is just, unfortunately, another symptom of villains just getting better cards, especially because the Thermal Detonator side just does the one thing. The special just does the special. However, let's say they pick Anarchy out of your hand with something, again, either with Thrawn or a discard side. You're forced to discard it with Vader or whatever. You can still use the dice that's in play for whatever value it had. So, I mean, it's really flexible. I think it's quite reasonable at 3, especially because, again, we just discussed that it's a thermal and the right dice. Like, Bosk suddenly has, you know, a 6 or 9 damage side with this instead of just a 3 for 1 that you don't even, and it says remove a yellow dice, not resolve. So
that's right.
Yeah, it's really, really good. So I think that in a good enough list, maybe something that runs fair trade, or just there's a lot of interesting ways to make this happen. Like you said, Unkar would obviously be to pay for it. So I think it's a great card. I think it's really cool, and I like the design behind it.
And it's only going to get better when Legends comes out.
That's true. That's really true. I think
it Legends or Legacies?
I knew what you meant. Yeah, Legacy.
Sorry, it's only going to get better when Legacies comes out, because all those indirect damage sides are actually higher numbers generally, or cost less relative to their number, because of the fact that your opponent can distribute it as they wish. So if you end up with like a yellow villain vehicle that has a 5 indirect damage side.
Oh, it's not indirect anymore.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how, because of the design of Anarchy, how many indirects yellow villains are going to have. I know Afra's got 3, I believe, but
Yep.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see. I also would be really ironic to use Anarchy on the +3 side of the Relby.
Sure.
Because the
I
Relby.
pay 3 for it.
Instead of 2.
Take that.
Joke's on you. Actually, you may want to do that to get rid of a target for Unkar, but either way. That was
Maybe.
just being clever.
All right, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I really, really think it's good. I'm gonna find a way to use it outside of Unkar. Like, he's good for so many of these cards.
That's because money is good, and he brings money. Which is
very
weird.
true. Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on to the next one. It is a 1-cost event called Bounty Postings. It says draw cards equal to the number of characters an opponent has. I guess that's cool if you're in a meta full of 3 and 4 character lists. If you are in a meta full of Palpatine, you'll feel like a schmuck because the card will basically replace itself and cost you a resource. But I don't know. I mean, I I I see it hitting 2 most of the time, and I'm not sure that I would pay 1 to draw 2 cards. I guess it's sort of like a different version of what is it, award ceremony or balance ambition for
sure.
yellow,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not sure it's as effective.
Yeah, I don't personally. I don't see the. I don't see the draw of playing this, but yeah, I hope I didn't just kill one of our viewers.
Unsubscribe.
You're right. Yeah, I really don't see the allure of playing this because I'm a big fan of use the whole hand, just get a new one. Like it's the only card. The only deck that I need to draw cards in is Emperor, and that's just to find Rise Again. So I don't see the need 9 times out of 10 to draw cards mid-round unless you are looking for something super specific to shut down your opponent. Even if it's not specific, like even if you just need control, you can still accomplish that 9 times out of 10 with the hand you have.
Or rerolls even, yeah.
Yeah, or but then if you spend the last dollar you have to draw and you're like, oh cool, I got my, I don't know, War and Quarter portion or whatever,
Sure.
then it's like, oh great, now I don't have money. Or let's say you
Yep.
drew, he doesn't like you, and it's like, okay great, they resolved, or they remove my dice. It's just bounty postings is really, really, really slow, and if it costs 0, I would think it'd be great because then you could actually draw into the support you needed and not have to pay for it. Maybe it was like, maybe if it was an event that costs 2 and says draw cards equal the number, the same conditions character's opponent has, but reduce the cost for amount of yellow characters you have. I think that would be really cool because it was...
Be neat.
Yeah, well, it would incentivize you to run a mono yellow, and it would be cool in Gamorrean Guards, but also wouldn't be game breaking. You would basically just be trading 1 for 2, and if your lineup dies, then, I mean, you get punished for it. So I think paying 1 is unfortunate. I wish they would have added some kind of cost reduction benefit to it, because at this point, like you said, trading 1 for 2 cards that you're just going to draw at the end of the turn anyway, just... It's not conducive to anything effective from what I can see.
My problem is I don't like cards that rely on how my opponent's deck is built. I want to build a deck that has cards that rely on how my deck is built, right? Like
weird.
with things like is it award ceremony, the one where you draw a card for each exhausted character you have? Mm-hmm. I mean, at least you know that you're playing that in a 3 or 4 character list, and you can control when you draw, and you'll probably get 3 cards unless you see it late game. And that can be good, but This one's a little weird. Okay, let's move on to Buyout. It is a 0-cost event. It says spend any number of resources, then discard cards from the top of an opponent's deck equal to the number of resources you spent. So, obviously, it's got Unkar on it. Works well with Unkar.
No way.
If you have 19 resources and your opponent's got 18 cards left, then you buy out all 18 cards, dump the rest of their hand, and it's game over. And it's actually pretty good for that, definitely. In a Thrawn deck, it's really useful. When I was playing the Thrawn mill version, I found that when I didn't hit my buyouts, or if I got them early, which is unfortunate, or if they got friends in low places out of my hand, I'm sitting there with like 4 cards left in my hand and none in my deck. My opponent has 3 cards left in their hand and none in their deck, and I'm like, this mill thing ain't working, man. I mean, luckily, Unkar and Thrawn can take cards out of hand, but... I mean, you want to be like 10 cards ahead of your opponent at that point. Not going, oh, damn, I have to re-roll. Here goes 25% of my remaining cards.
It's true.
So,
yeah,
I think of this one.
I like it. During the, I know I mentioned this or referenced it before, but during the Empire at War release event that we had a little bit north from me, sealed pack event, and you could play heroes and villains together. It was really, really fun. It was an awesome format. I would say that format should just be around more often. Like, that was extremely fun. I played... I was lucky enough to pull Buyout. I had a 7th Sister, a Wookiee, and a Gamorrean Guard. So I had a pretty decent lineup, and I was going against someone with Royal Guard and a Rookie Pilot and General Mills. That would be General Riken because he's milling. So I was playing against that lineup, and I'd say he had maybe 10 cards left in his deck, and I didn't need to spend my resources, and I was like, man, Buyout's gotta be coming up, and we were within the last 10 to 8 to 10 cards of
Sure.
he was milling me really really good because I just couldn't remove the shields that he had, but he was also playing Fearless, the new
Yep.
activate a character and give it a shield, draw a card. But
Right.
he played it on Royal Guard, and you can't play blue abilities. I didn't catch that, so et cetera, et cetera.
Mm.
The long and short version is I got to buyout, and I was like, sweet, I have 8 resources, and I slam buyout, and man, I got rid of all of his good cards, and he's like, oh my goodness. Picked up one more, and I was able to just slowly chip away with damage because he didn't want to discard reroll. I could keep
Sure.
the shields down, so I think it's really really fun. It's obviously very effective too. I mean, you could buy out for 11 or 12, and be like you said, you want to be 10 plus cards ahead with this, and obviously Thrawn card, that was one of the first recipes, if not the first one that we saw use it real well. So
Yep.
I mean, shoot, it's effective and fun, which I think is, I mean, it's not fun for your opponent, but I think
That's okay.
I
I don't
think,
mind.
yeah, I mean, that's not a necessity for playing Destiny for anyone
No,
who's played
sir.
against Vader. I think it's cool that it's effective and fun and can pretty much go in any deck if you're just like, yeah, I'll just hang on to my resources and, not do a lot of upgrades.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool, like, as far as, like, not just from a meta perspective, people who just have what they
Sure.
have access to. I mean, it's pretty much good anywhere because you never want to lose cards because there's almost no way to get them back unless you count cheat and Return of the Jedi.
And one thing to be careful of is if you're playing against a deck that might be running buyout, and you say you look across the table and I've got 12 resources, and you've got 12 or less cards left in your deck, don't play the last cards out of your hand. Like I've had games where my opponent discards his last card to reroll to try to kill Unkar or something like that, and then he claims, and I'm like, cool, I'll resolve a couple resource dice, and now I'll buy you out. There goes the rest of your deck. Game over.
Oh.
And you're just like, oof.
I actually, one more thing I want to add is that it's awesome because it costs 0. That's what we were talking a little bit about earlier with bounty postings. I wish that this would have a similar cost benefit. And you also don't have to spot a yellow, which is outstanding. So, I mean, even if Unkar does die, you can still get resources from Thrawn, where it's like, okay, I'll just take 2 resources off my dice, 4 if I roll it again. It's so good. So, I mean, yeah, just great card overall. I think it's awesome.
All right, let's move on to Coercion. It is a 1-cost event. It says spot a yellow character to reveal an opponent's hand and choose an event in it. They must play that event as their next action if able. When this first came out, we saw a really interesting interaction in the what they call the staff challenges at Nova, where the staff player had a Gamorrean guard left with like 1 hit point, and it was playing against a person playing Vader guard. The staff played Coercion, and the guard was dead already, and they forced Vader to kill himself with the price of failure. We've since realized that apparently, because it says they must play that as their next action, your opponent can pass, because passing is not counted as an action. So what you can do is if I play Coercion and say, okay, you have to play Price of Failure as your next action, you can just pass for the rest of the round and not kill your Vader. So it's actually taken a big hit since then, because let's say that I go in, like there's I think it was pinned down. I think it was actually doesn't say opponents die. So if you roll out a character and I play Coercion and force you to play Pin Down, you actually have to remove your own die. However, you can now just pass, wait for me to roll in, and then play Pin Down to remove one of my dice. So
Interesting.
less interesting. And there are also turns, particularly with FN around, where they'll have no events or an event that they can't afford or something like that. So it ends up sort of being spotty L character to look at an opponent's hand. So it took a big hit when that ruling came out, but it's still kind of an interesting card.
Yeah, I mean, I think that interaction was really cool about using Price of Failure and everything, but it's like, that's a best case scenario. And when
Sure.
when I saw it, I was like, oh wow, it's really cool. Like, that situation actually lined up. That's outstanding. I think that's so cool. Like, that's one of the neat things about Destiny, is you never know when stuff like that is going to happen. But when I saw this, I was like, there's really no there's really no other amazing circumstance to use this in. I mean, yeah, if you have a dice showing a blank and you really want them to use their isolation on it, yeah, I mean that's good, but it's slow. It's not
Yeah.
bad. It's not bad at all. But there's a lot of ways to get around this, or like you said, most of the time it's just going to be pay one, spot a yellow, and look at an opponent's hand. You can
Mm-hmm.
also have them choose, like, let's say that you have no character dice out as an example, and have them go, okay, well, I'm going to have you play isolation. They can't play it, so that action would just
Exactly.
fizzle. So, I mean, there's a lot of interesting rulings around it. Like I had somebody at my local try and do that, where there was no character dice out, and he goes, okay, play isolation, and but the big two words in there are if able. So
I think you might actually still be forced to play isolation depending on the wording. There are some things where, like, as long as you pay the cost and discard the card, sort of like
but you got to meet the
with
condition.
yeah, I'm not sure what the wording is. I'll take a look real quick, but
Hmm.
like with intimidate, you can play it when your opponent has no shields.
Well, sure, but the thing is like negotiate still works because it would remove a one of your character dice. Like you can meet part of the
Yeah.
condition. So
Well, this one actually says spot a blue character to remove a character dice, so you could sort of force your opponent to hit one of their own character dice or whatnot. So
potentially, but if there
uh,
are no character dice, like then the card, then they're not able to play it. So this basically coercion can hit a wall.
mm-hmm.
But again, like negotiate. If they have the character dice out, then yeah,
Yep.
absolutely, you can make them resolve that part of it. They just can't fill the second part.
Sure.
So as long as some of it can be resolved, then absolutely you're good to go. But I mean, I don't see the hype behind it, especially because people are now like playing around the price of failure hype that we
Sure.
saw earlier
Well, only because you can include leadership in a Vader deck now with
with
two
guard.
player Phasma.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's good. I think it's really neat. I like the design aspect behind it. But I mean, as far as like being huge in the meta and whatever else, it's a neat trick. You know.
Sure. All right, let's move on. We've got a one cost event called Only Business Matters. It says remove any number of your yellow dice, then gain one resource for each die you just removed. Kind of a cool card, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. I mean, it's sort of the fight dirty of resources instead of damage, which doesn't sound nearly as good now that I've said it out loud. One thing that I found really interesting about the card actually was that it's a common, and yet there was a lot of people that reported that they only got like two or three of them in 5, 6 boxes,
Wow.
whereas they've got like 12 of every other commons. So people were actually wondering if it was misprinted, it was supposed to be an uncommon or something like that. But
Interesting.
I don't know. Anyway, back to the function of it. I guess it's kind of cool if you're playing a Crime Lord deck that's mono yellow. You can get a lot of money out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, you've got other ways to get money like resource sides and don't need this. And of course, the problem you got is like it has a cost in that it costs one, but on top of that, it costs you dice.
Mm-hmm.
So the cost is actually kind of huge for this. Like you could lose an entire turn and pay one and get like $3, which
Mm-hmm.
doesn't sound very good to me. I don't know. What do you think about this?
Well, I think that this is the dice version of smuggling for heroes. Because smuggling, you got to pitch a card, and then you're down two, but you're up one resource. Of course, it costs zero.
Okay.
But I think that this is sort of a like a last two cards in the turn kind of thing. Of like, man, it's not gonna, you don't have fight dirty or you don't have something else in hand where you can go, okay, well, I have a disrupt, a blank, and a +2 resource. I may as well net two resources off of it.
Sure, but do you actually put cards in your deck that are for that kind of situation?
Oh, I agree. I'm just saying, like, if you do need resources, that's pretty good to come up on Crime Lord, because let's say you
Absolutely,
just
yeah.
have the one, you will start the turn with 5, and if you didn't want to discard and re-roll, you at least guarantee that you're looking at 3 resources
Yeah,
right then.
that is true.
So I mean, while I agree, there's actually many cards in Yu-Gi-Oh that were that way of like you're teching to lose, but I see this as an out for a bad roll, and after discard and rerolls don't work, like it's just a last ditch effort to at least guarantee that you get some kind of value out of your turn versus.
Or you could discard it and reroll.
But again, that's not a guarantee. But it's not a
No,
guarantee depending on
no,
what
that
you're
is
going
true.
for. You know, so I just see it as a last ditch effort for some kind of guarantee. Because I mean, if you
Sure.
do have a bunch of disrupt sides and like let's say you have the Bosk 3-for-1 or whatever that you can't pay for, at least you can make your turn matter. It's a guarantee
Yep.
that it will.
I got you.
So I think I don't think it's fantastic, but I don't think it's terrible. But it is a shame that
I
it
think
costs
it's
more.
terrible.
Yeah, I totally, and that's the spice of life is difference.
Yes, sir. All right, let's move on to a very expensive Unkar target. It is called Pilfered Goods. It's a 5-cost event. It says you may play an upgrade from your hand for free on each of your yellow characters. So definitely an interesting card. The restriction on it, of course, is that the upgrades have to come from your hand, and they have to be yellow characters. So, I mean, it costs 5. You can reduce it by playing Hidden Agenda first, I guess, and popping it out, or you can hit it with friends in high places. I saw Jay from Double Blanks Gaming playing his 3 Little Piggies deck, and he somehow managed to have 2 3-cost upgrades and a 2-cost upgrade in his hand. All 3 of his piggies were alive. He happened to play Friends in High Places, which hit another Friends in High Places, and the second Friends in High Places hit Pilfered Goods.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden he had a flamethrower, a Relby, and something else on there, and he was like, "Whoa!" And I mean, you know, those are the kind of plays that people love to see. But good God, how often does that happen, right?
I mean, this
even if you've got it in hand and you can pay for it, do you have, like, maybe you only have one or
the
two
upgrades?
characters
Yeah,
left
totally.
alive, or you only have 4 costs worth of upgrades? It's like, okay, let's play 4 costs worth of upgrades out by paying a 5-cost event. Yay!
I mean,
Or
yeah,
you could just pay the 4, right? So
yeah, totally. I mean, the stars have to align for this to work like that, you know. But I think it's like you were saying. I think the card's a really fun design. It depends. I like that it doesn't say weapons. So I mean, you could even do personal shields. Like this could be in a defensive deck also. I mean, that could go for Crime Lord.
Yep. Crime Lord and Prized Possession.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean,
pretty good.
yeah, that'd be really, really neat, especially to
To
just I mean, it's a good head start, and like you said, you can reduce it down to 3 if you play Hidden Agenda, which is cool that it's neutral. So yeah, I mean, I think it's really, really fun, and that's cool that the planets and stars just like coalesced for that incredible play of
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous.
friends in high places. It's really funny.
All right, let's move on to the next one. It is Twin Shadows. It is a 2-cost event. It says spot 2 characters with the same title to remove up to 2 dice. So obviously here, you are not playing it with unique characters because you can't spot 2 that have the same title. So it is non-unique characters. I've seen people play it with Gamorrean Guards, which is cool. They don't have to be yellow characters, so you could play this in a triple First Order Trooper, Guavian Trooper deck, and you'll actually be more likely to have 2 characters with the same title alive to play it, which is good. I'm not sold on the cost. I mean, like, it seems like it should cost 1 to me simply because of the fact that the cost is already high, and you're spotting 2 characters with the same title, which is, again, sort of a high cost. So, you know, like, if you have them still alive, cool, good job. And then 2 resources is kind of a big chunk, although it is 2 of any dice, which is nice. There's no restrictions on that aspect of it. So I guess that's what you get. Versus, what's that, the one from the 2-player box that costs 2 just to remove 1 die, but has no color and no restrictions.
Yeah,
so
that's the Hux one. I believe it's Grey Villain.
it is
Subjugation. Yeah, I mean,
yes, that's the one.
I do think that the spot 2 characters with the same title is a pricier cost, but like you said, you can do it with any color, which is cool. Plus, you could remove an ATST dice and
Absolutely,
like a Hux dice. Like, so I mean, the value is good, but it's like hyperspace jump where it just freezes the turn. You know, because now you're out
To
of
some
money.
degree, yeah.
Yeah, you know, like it just halts the turn. It doesn't. I mean, yeah, it helps you stay alive, but now you're out of money and you can't spend on what you wanted to do. So you've stalled that turn, which is good because then you're not dead. But it's it just depends on if you want to do that, or it's not going to go in an aggro deck for sure. So
Well, the other problem is that most non-unique characters have pay sides,
it's true.
so it's tricky to be able to afford it. Or they have no pay sides but don't have a resource side in the case of a death trooper.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think it's going to
tough
be
one.
difficult to play necessarily, but I think that's why, like my friend who uses Gamorrean Guard, and Unkar definitely can use
Yep.
it. Like you said,
Sure.
Unkar makes the money, so I think in that recipe, it's really really good.
True.
It's a lot more consistent, especially because you can just pull Vibra Knife off of off the lineup, and then boom, shields are instantly mean something, and then personal shields, etc. So it's a really good control card, but yeah, it's situational for sure.
Yeah, side note, I find it kind of unfortunate that you can't run single die Jabba with 2 Gamorrean guards, because that seems more likely
That's
to
so
happen than
thematic.
Gamorrean guards guarding a junk dealer.
It's true.
But hey, what can you do?
I mean, it's a desert planet. It's kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah, I thought this was Tatooine. Huh? All right, let's move on. The next one is a 1-cost support called Hut Ties. It is an action that says exhaust this support to force an opponent to choose to either lose 1 resource or choose and remove 1 of their dice. Of course, this is one of these ones where your opponent can choose to lose a resource when they have no resources, or choose to remove a die when they haven't rolled in yet. So it's kind of cool. I like that's one of the designs I actually don't like about Destiny, is that it would be better if I could make you lose your money first and then force you to remove a die with this action instead. I mean, it's sort of a trickle because they get to choose the die, and so it's it's one of those ones where thankfully it's non-unique, I guess, so that you can have 2 of them out there and just be like, okay, lose some money, lose some dice, lose some money, lose some dice. But the problem is there's so many times where your opponent just, like, first or second action, they just
Spends everything.
spend their money.
Yeah.
And then Hut Ties just says, oh okay. Cool. I don't know, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, I think it's okay. I wish it would be another one of those 0-cost supports where it's like, hey, did you roll in X? Like,
Yep.
you
that'd
know,
be handy.
yeah, definitely. Even if it was a 1 where that was the case, it's like, did you roll a blank, for instance? Then you at least have some kind of blank support, maybe
Sure.
to use with Gamorrean Guard, but it's it gives too much power to your opponent, which is like, why do that when you could just run? I mean, I almost hate to say it, Twin Shadows is better than this, like, for sure, because then
Yeah.
you're gonna guaranteed meet the conditions for 2 dice being removed versus,
Sure.
oh well, I guess I'll just quote unquote
And
lose
you
a
get to
resource.
choose the dice.
Yeah, you get to choose the dice. So I mean, I don't. I also don't like that rule about Destiny. It's like, let the Wookiee win. Oh well, I guess I'll just
Yeah.
remove dice that aren't in the pool. Haha. Like,
Yep, exactly.
ugh. Yeah, like,
Well,
it should
the
be
funny
a
thing about
cost.
this one here is is, let's say that I'm playing a fast deck to try to get rid of your money, right? If I'm first, my first action is this. You just go, okay, I'll remove a die that I don't have. If I'm second, you spend your $2 first action, and Hut Ties is dead. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It sort of reminds me of Dark Presence to some degree.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I had the same problem with Dark Presence, because it's when you roll a discard side, your opponent has to choose to remove a die. First of all, your opponent is choosing which die to remove, which is no good. Second of all, you want to wait until your opponent's rolled in some stuff before you trigger that. And the problem is that in a deck that is looking to discard stuff from your hand, they don't want to wait. I want to get my discard sides in and resolve them as quickly as possible.
Exactly.
So I don't know.
I see Hut Ties as a worse salvage stand, especially because it costs money. Salvage stand, you're hitting what you want to hit when you want to hit it. So
But you can't rend it. Oh boy.
yeah. I'm
It's rend proof,
Ooh,
sir.
boy, new meta. I mean, watch out, Imperial Inspection. We're coming for you.
That's right.
But
Take that.
yeah, that's right. I don't know. Yeah, I wish it was better. I would rather run Underworld Connections than this. If you wanted to run a support, because at least you instantly start benefiting from it. But yeah, I just think this is kind of a worse salvage stand, a worse let the Wookiee win. It's pretty difficult
That's because
to
it
play.
is.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to our last card here. It is a 2-cost upgrade ability called Deadly. It says action, exhaust this upgrade, and remove one of attached characters' character dice to deal 2 unblockable damage to a character. So I was talking about this with Bazine at the beginning there.
So
If
good.
you can get a character that has some cheap dice, cheap yellow, or I guess it doesn't even have to be yellow, cheap character dice, then this is amazing. I mean, even in a character that doesn't have particularly cheap dice, if you can basically guarantee that their die is doing 2 damage, which happens to also be unblockable every turn, it's pretty amazing. I put that in my Fight Dirty deck, and I don't care whether it's on Balatique or the Guavian or Bazine. I put them on Bazine because no one wants to kill Bazine first.
Right.
And you can always overwrite it for free with a redeploy weapon when the character's about to die. I mean, even if you put this in again, that triple first order trooper deck with a Guavian, I mean, if I play this out on a first order trooper, and I guarantee that I can do 2 unblockable damage with that first order trooper die every turn, it's a little slow, but it is darn effective.
Totally. I actually think this is one of the best cards in the set, for sure. I use it in Elite Aura Phasma because, I mean, it's faster than it seems, especially because you don't need to wait. You're like, oh, well, I got a blank and a 2. Okay, I'll resolve my ranged first.
Yep.
Then next action is just okay, action, and I'm doing 2. You don't have to wait to re-roll. Like,
and does your opponent is your opponent gonna mitigate a blank to stop it?
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
answer
not.
is yes. But
yeah, I'll isolate. Hey, isolate the blank. Boy, that's a win, And
dude, I do that with Vader dice all the time because I know he's gonna force strike me.
No,
gotta get rid of that stuff.
It's true, and like Luke, same thing. Yeah, just high value character dice are always a threat. But Deadly's so good because you're looking at a cost of 2 to remove one of your own dice for 2 unblockable damage. Like that's the lightsaber special that you don't have to roll.
Yes, it is very consistent because it makes it so it doesn't matter what you roll.
And it's unblockable.
And the cool thing is, even, like, say you got 2 character dice because you're running an elite character with Deadly, you can choose the worst of the 2. Like you resolve your 2 range damage first, and then with your blank or your 1 disrupt, you go all Deadly.
Totally.
And hit you for 2 unblockable. It's a fantastic card.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this should be in just about every yellow villain card. I mean, especially like you were saying, you can override it with the LL30. Boom.
Yep.
A holdout blaster instantly. Like you keep the value on the card always, because I mean you're gonna run this in a ranged yellow deck. Like let's just that's just what it is. Awesome card. I think it's really good. The value is very good. I'm actually surprised it doesn't cost 3 because of how consistent it is.
Shh. They'll rat it.
No, I don't think they will.
No, they won't.
Or rather, like Watto. No, they won't. So nice. Yeah, that's it's an awesome card. Absolutely, in my opinion, one of the best of the set for sure.
All right, looks like we're out of cards to review today.
That was fast.
So thanks for joining us, everybody, and we'll be continuing our series. So keep an eye out for that on the channel. And thanks for joining us, Austin, as well, actually.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. And, those are really interesting cards. I'm really liking the direction that their design is going, and I hope to see that reflected in the next few sets.
Yeah, I've always loved yellow, and it's nice to see them coming into their own now.
Totally.
So. All right, thanks a lot for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time on Starkiller Base.